I would say changing of the pictures is one of the biggest events that happens around here that everybody loves. There's no question about it.
What do I think of Pete's photos? They're magnificent. Every single day I stop and look at them. He manages to capture the best expressions on people's faces and tells a story.
When Pete changes them, you can't walk through because all the staff is watching and looking for the new pictures. It is amazing.
It's nice for the staff that don't get to spend a lot of FaceTime with the president to sort of see what he does. Did he flip through these?
Sometimes even the president takes a sneak preview of the newest editions.
Sam and I just walked in.
He was down here flipping through the photos.
He was
whistling. He's whistling, and he goes, "I love looking at these new jumbos."
Pete took a wonderful picture. It's a very simple picture of a little boy who came in with his family. And he was the son of somebody who works at the White House. He couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. And he very boldly told me that people had told him that he and I had the same haircut. And so he wanted to see if that was true. So I put down my head so that he could examine my hair. And he helpfully pointed out all the gray hairs. And then he decided to pat me on the head just to get a feel for it. And Pete took a picture, and I think that one has stayed up through the whole year and a half, just because it reminds you not to take yourself too seriously. If, a 3-year-old can pat you on the head in the Oval Office, then you're probably keeping your sense of humor.
16 months into his term, Pete and his team have made nearly 1 million photographs, 30,000 of the grueling healthcare fight alone. They record the gritty work of building a consensus, the dozens of town hall meetings, and the hundreds of conversations with congressmen and senators. But by late March, after all that, there is still one more vote and a few more pictures that will tell the final story. In the 3 days leading up to the vote, it'll be a full court press to persuade the remaining handful of legislators. Pete will get it all.
I took this job for those last 3 days. You really felt that you were documenting history. I remember the incessant number of phone calls by him calling individual congressmen. And he used like the Oval Office phone, he used Katie Johnson's phone, and he used Rom's cell phone. It's like in the limo making calls.
By 10 p.m. on the night of the vote, the president has no more calls to make. All he can do is wait.
But then when they started roll call for the vote, he wanted to be with the staff. And everybody had gathered in the Roosevelt room.
At 10:48 p.m., the final tally for the healthcare reform bill is in.
On this vote, the yeas are 220, the nays are 211. The bill is passed.
I think that's when it really hit people how historic this was. Here's something they had worked for basically since day one of his presidency.
After the vote, the president invited his staff up to the White House residence to celebrate.
And we went up on the Truman balcony and toasted all these 25-year-olds and a bunch of people who had worked so hard in relative obscurity to make this thing happen. It was one of those moments that that reminds you of why you got into politics in the first place. The healthcare vote was probably the most gratifying moment that I've had in public life, more than my election as president, because you run and hopefully win elected office, not just for the sake of being something, but for the sake of doing something.
Pete seems to be driven by the same idea.
I feel like I'm the luckiest SOB photographer in the world, and I'm not going to let these years go by without making the most of it. People always ask me, what's your favorite picture? And I always say it's the one that I'll make tomorrow.
There will be many stories written about the Obama years. But Pete Souza's pictures will give the American public an inner glimpse of what happened here, of what jubilation and defeat felt like, of the texture of days, intense and tranquil, of life in this rarefied place called the White House.